What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And today we're once again talking about the New York Giants receiving corps. Today we want to talk about Wale Robinson. He was recently named an under-the-radar star by CBS Sports, and we kind of want to discuss the fact that, first of all, we agree with that. We think that Wale Robinson could be a star this upcoming season. And we kind of just want to project what the season might look like for Robinson, who started to experience a little bit of a breakout last year, second season of his career. We all know rookie season had that breakout against the Lions, also had the season-ending injury against the Lions, bounced back in a big way this past season, but now fully healthy with an entire summer to practice going into year 3. Plus, Malik Neighbors playing on the outside should open things up for Wale Robinson to have that big breakout here in his third season. And we're really excited about that and kind of just want to dive into him, discuss what makes him so special and why we think that he could be a breakout star for the New York Giants in 2024. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comments section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And how are you feeling about Wale Robinson as he enters his third season in the NFL?
Well, you guys know, I've spoken really, really highly of Wale Robinson in the past couple of weeks, and I think there's really good reason to think that he could break out this year. The addition of Malik Neighbors, bringing in a big body at tight end, like Theo Johnson, and obviously you lose Darren Waller, but you get Neighbors, who is going to be so much better for such a longer time than Waller was for the Giants in the one injury-riddled season he did provide us. So, looking at kind of where this offense goes, the next step in its progression, its development, its evolution, we're looking at a much more pass-happy offense moving forward. I mean, the offensive line couldn't possibly be worse. I've said this before, and then it ended up somehow being worse, but I don't know how it could be worse. I mean, last year was the perfect storm. Injuries left and right, inconsistencies, Bobby Johnson. It was really, really bad. So I think we will get better, even if it's marginally, which in turn should help our quarterback, throw the ball a little bit more efficiently and obviously hit the target. So, looking at the receivers at our disposal, Jalen Hyatt, he's, I think, got a lot better this offseason. He's been working really, really hard, made some really nice improvements, at least according to some of the coaching staff and what they've been saying about him. And then working with Steve Smith, obviously, we saw the pictures and videos at practice, working on his release package and kind of learning a little bit from a, Hall of Fame level talent. So I think that's obviously beneficial for him. Neighbors coming in at 20 years old, the youngest of the top 5 receivers at the draft, and arguably the best of all of them. There's a really real possibility he ends up having a much better career than, even Marvin Harrison Jr. So I do think that when you look at Neighbors, his upside, his youth, he is going to be a steal for a long time. The guy has a talent to be elite. Now it's just about executing and making sure he actually gets the football in space. But with opposing secondaries having to allocate so much attention, he's going to destroy man coverage. You're playing zone against him. You have to have a free safety looking at him at all times. You're going to have a lot of 1v1 matchups and, kind of zone beaters, route concepts that are built into Wale Robinson's kind of, ability to, produce. And the reality is when it comes to Wale, using him in space, putting him in motion, the most important thing to me is Daniel Jones recognizing coverages pre-snap and getting Wale Robinson into the right alignment so he can capitalize on the space that defenses are going to give him, whether it's zone, whether it's man. If it's man, Wandale's going to create separation. If it's zone, you want Daniel Jones to be able to read pre-snap what the coverage looks like, what's going on, and say, hey, Wale, I know what's about to happen. I want you to go sit down in this route. I want you to attack the seam. I want you to run a wheel. This is where Daniel Jones and the intelligence of having a good quarterback really comes into play into helping maximize the talent of your playmakers. So, Wale, why is he so good? Well, he does a lot after the catch. Last year, he had 525 yards coming off an ACL tear. And, by the way, that's pretty damn good considering his first game was in week 3 against San Francisco. We've seen players really struggle in the first year coming back from an ACL tear. Wale showed up and really didn't look like he skipped a beat. He had a lot of receptions. He had 60 receptions on 76 targets for a 79% completion rate. That's tremendous. That's fantastic. 402 of his yards, 291 of his yards came after the catch. So more than half of his production came after the ball was already in his hands, which is really, really, really good. This is a player that I think is going to be able to do so much just because he creates space. The first tackler, you can't bring him down because he's so fast. And, he played 19.4% of his snaps out wide last season and 78.2 in the slot. And Malik Neighbors is kind of a 50-50 split at the collegiate level. How do you think that they get involved, get Wandale involved in the scheme? How do you think Malik Neighbors plays off, really benefits the other playmakers on this roster? I think Wandale may end up becoming a really solid number 2 for this team. I actually think he might be number 2 in targets, next to Neighbors. I could see that being a reality, and him becoming one of the most, I guess you could say profitable players on this offense.
Yeah, I think there's a really good chance he finishes number 2 in targets, because if you look at his target share over the last couple of seasons, even though he's been in and out of the lineup and he's been banged up and he hasn't been the focal point of the offense, he's still found ways to make plays and receive a really high volume of targets. So I think this season, now that we're expecting to see Wale Robinson play more, get more opportunities, his target share should increase and his catch percentage should increase. Everything should increase for Wandale. So if you're asking me how I envision him kind of playing off in this offense alongside Malik Neighbors, well, Neighbors can play inside outside. He'll move all over the offensive lineup. He'll align in the slot, he'll align outside based on the matchup that the Giants are facing. But what that does for Wale Robinson is kind of take attention away from him. Wandale is really good at working in those short to intermediate portions of the field, underneath, drag routes, slant routes, all of that stuff, bubble screens, whip routes to the sideline, those kind of small routes that give him the ball in space 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage and allow him to create yards after the catch, which, as you noted in those statistics, he's really good at creating. So any of those routes, you can bank on Wale Robinson getting himself open. But now those routes, where they were open a good amount last year, should be even more open now this upcoming season. And the reason why is because when you have Malik Neighbors on the outside commanding double teams and attention from opposing defenses, combined with Darius Slayton and and Jalen Hyatt on the other side of the field, also potentially commanding attention, all of the attention being on the outside means the middle of the field should be open for Wandale to really feast and get a lot of targets over the middle of the field. Because he is one of those kind of grinders, one of those dirty players who makes those catches in traffic, isn't afraid to run behind the linebacker or into the defensive backfield where safety might be lurking in a robber coverage, right? That's Wandale Robinson's bread and butter, is making those ugly plays, getting those dirty yards, kind of like a running back would running between the tackles. For receivers, it's running open across the middle of the field where you know that a linebacker could come across and just smack you. Wandale Robinson is really good at making plays in those scenarios. And again, those scenarios are going to be more abundant now. Those opportunities are going to be higher frequency for him because Wandale Robinson is going to have less attention paid to him now that Malik Neighbors is commanding so much attention on the outside. So really, the addition of Malik Neighbors is going to be huge for this team because it creates a domino effect, a trickle-down effect where the attention gets paid to Malik Neighbors means less attention paid to Wandale, Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, and also should open things up for the running game, because now that the Giants have 4 capable wide receivers, there could be opportunities for them to go 5 wide and throw 4 receivers, 1 tight end on the field and no running backs. But also when they're in that 11 personnel, defenses are probably going to have to play that nickel and that dime package more frequently against the Giants, meaning they're going to put extra defensive backs on the field, which should create better opportunities in the running game for Devin Singletary and the Giants backfield. And I think that's a pretty underrated storyline here where the Giants, yes, they lost Saquon Barkley, but in some ways it could be addition by subtraction. Opposing defenses are unlikely to stack boxes as frequently against the Giants now without Saquon Barkley in the lineup, and they're more likely to put on more defensive backs into the coverage to face off against Malik Neighbors in this receiving core, which should create more rushing opportunities for Devin Singletary in the Giants backfield. So there is a trickle-down effect here from Malik Neighbors that should open things up and allow every facet of the Giants offense to be more productive, whether you're talking throwing the ball downfield or maybe attacking the middle, the short portion of the field with Wandale Robinson, or handing it off to Devin Singletary and the rest of these running backs. Alex, what are your thoughts on that? Just kind of the way that, yeah, Malik Neighbors is going to open things up for Wandale Robinson, but not only Robinson, but a lot of other teammates on this Giants offense are going to see the benefits of having Malik Neighbors in the lineup if he does pan out to be the immediate star that we think he will be. And in particular, I think the running game could really benefit from how talented this Giants receiving core is.
I mean, I think that's objectively what's going to happen, mainly because, you kind of think about what the Giants' offense has been in the past. It's been a heavy reliance on the running game and Saquon Barkley. When you rely on the running back position, opposing defenses adjust, and you know what happens? They stack the box. They stop the run. And now you're kind of put in a position where, opposing teams simply had it figured out. All they had to do was stack the box and blitz extra guys at Daniel Jones, and they basically were able to overwhelm our offensive line immediately. They forced Daniel Jones to make premature decisions. They forced him to make mistakes. They forced him to, not really scan the field. And you know what happened? Lots of turnovers. And, when the Giants ran the ball, they had very minimal production. So now you kind of start to think about how this offense will change, expanding the football field. Of course, it's all great in theory. The Giants actually have to execute this. And I think Brian Daboll taking over playing calling will help that, because this offense has to die by his hand, live or die by his hand. Can't be Mike Kafka, can't be anybody else. We hired him to be an offensive guru, and to not let him be the offensive guru would kind of be malpractice. So I do think that, Daboll taking over and what he did with Buffalo, explosive playmakers, right? Explosive downfield opportunities, get the ball to Stephon Diggs, get the ball to Gabe Davis, really move the football downfield. That's what I expect from Daniel Jones, right? He has 1 year to really prove that he can be the future of this team. Brian Daboll, I know CBS just listed him as one of the hottest seats for a head coach this upcoming season. And this is the time. Let it rip, man. If you're gonna like stink, do it because you were trying so hard to be great, not because you weren't trying at all. So I think that, this offense has to be explosive, has to be aggressive. I think nobody's gonna expect it. This Giants team has been so boring on offense for so long. Let them just let it rip. Let Daniel Jones throw the ball downfield. That's what we loved about him a couple years ago when he was actually showing promise, was his ability to throw the ball downfield. Let him throw the rock downfield. Let Malik Neighbors chase that thing down. Let Wandale get downfield sometimes. He's actually not that bad when you throw him the ball in deeper concepts. Obviously, Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt will benefit as well. But I also think the running game is going to benefit as well, because teams won't just be stacking the box with linebackers, moving your safeties up. Now's a chance for this team to run the ball more effectively, have a better run blocking scheme. I think Carmen Brasillo will offer that tenfold better than Bobby Johnson. His crack blocking scheme with the Raiders was significantly better. They had the top rushing offense 2 years ago with Josh Jacobs. Now, I know Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy are not Josh Jacobs, but listen, sometimes it's not about the running back, but it is about the scheme. That when you blend Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers scheme, you get a really good situation. So now the Giants, if they have a good scheme and decent running backs, they can still be a very productive offense, because the passing game hopefully will be so potent and so downfield oriented. They're going to have to push defensive backs. They're going to have to play more cover 3. They're going to have to take second defensive backs away from the line of scrimmage, push guys outside, make them, drop deeper into coverage. So I do think that right now the Giants do have the personnel to change things up a lot. And I do think Malik Neighbors plays a critical role in that, but I also think Wale Robinson benefits the most. And I expect there to be a lot more motion in this offense, moving Malik Neighbors around the system, moving, Wandale. What kind of creativity do you think the Giants offense will put forth with guys that are kind of capable of playing inside and out? It does give them a lot more versatility in how they deploy them.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I think that the Giants will try to be more creative and more explosive on offense this year. I know that's something Mike Kafka mentioned at the end of season press conference was going to be a priority for him this offseason. I know you kind of mentioned we're hoping that Brian Daboll takes over the play calling duties and takes more of a role in the offense, but even still, the offensive coordinator is Mike Kafka. He's going to play a large role, and he said at the end of the year his top priority was finding ways to make this offense more explosive. That ties into the addition of Malik Neighbors, but that also ties into the potential changes in the scheme that the Giants might be making. And we've seen explosive plays from this team before, years ago, when Daniel Jones was a rookie, throwing deep passes downfield to Golden Tate. Those were pretty much the glory days of the Daniel Jones era and explosive plays, but these past couple of seasons, they've lacked explosive plays. And so with that being a priority, I think that not only are you going to see Malik Neighbors get those deep targets and hopefully create those explosive plays in many ways on his own, but I do think that the Giants will run a little bit more of a vertical offense and take more shots downfield, because not only do they have Malik Neighbors who can go vertical, was one of the best deep threats in college football last year, they also have Jalen Hyatt, who can be an excellent deep threat if he continues to develop. And Darius Slayton has already proven to be a pretty solid deep threat in his own right in his NFL career. So with those three guys running vertical downfield, Well, someone has to stay short, and that's going to be Wale Robinson. He'll stay underneath while all of the defense is paying attention to this deep passing attack that the Giants are trying to form. It'll be opened up underneath for Wale Robinson to get some more opportunities. And like you said, I think they're going to get more creative with pre-snap motion, hopefully, and doing whatever they can really to get the ball into the hands of their playmakers. I think we'll see a lot of screens, drag routes, short concepts that are just given to Wale Robinson and allow him to just run up into space and create yards after the catch. For what it's worth, I think we'll see the same thing for Malik Neighbors. He's very dynamic with the ball in his hands, so I imagine that the Giants will also look for ways to get him the ball very quickly in the play and allow him to create yards after the catch. But I do expect this Giants offense to just be a lot more explosive because they have a lot more talent in the receiving game. They didn't have this last year. I mean, yeah, they had these players. They had Hyatt, they had Robinson, they had Slayton. But when Slayton's your number one and Hyatt's your number two and Robinson's your number three, it's a lot different than when you move those guys all down the list and have Malik Neighbors as your number one if he does pan out and have the great rookie season that we anticipate from him, which I believe he will. He looks like an absolute stud. He's been making crazy plays at Giants minicamp and OTAs, and I'm really excited for training camp once the pads come on to see the way that these wide receivers play off of one another and start to get a little bit of a hint and a preview at what we might expect for the upcoming season. I think that during the preseason, we'll probably see a good amount of playing time from all four of these receivers. Maybe not a ton for Malik Neighbors. They'll probably want to bubble wrap him in some sense, but I think we'll get some playing time out of Hyatt, Robinson, and Slayton and see them start to kind of form what their roles are going to be in this Giants offense and ramp themselves up for the upcoming regular season. So it's going to be a really fun summer. It's going to be really exciting to see what training camp looks like for the Giants preseason and where these wide receivers start playing in this offense, what their roles are going to be, and how much usage each one of them is going to receive. And again, I think that this is one of the most underrated receiving corps in the NFL. They have 4 quality starters in this group. And if you want to go even further, Isaiah Hodgins is number 5 on this list. We used to talk about him as being a potential starting WR2 for this team. So the Giants don't really have a shortage in wide receiver talent. No, they don't have a pairing of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They don't have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, but they do have Malik Neighbors and a solid group of players, 4 solid players behind him. And if Malik Neighbors can be that superstar that we expect him to be, all of those other players are going to benefit and look even better because of it. So I think this is going to be a really exciting unit for the Giants. It's probably going to be the most exciting unit on the team, minus maybe the pass rush, which I'm sure we'll talk about again in an upcoming episode. But this Giants receiving corps, man, definitely see a few breakout contenders, not only Robinson, but we'll also probably talk about Jalen Hyatt pretty soon because I think he could have a pretty big breakout. And pretty much all of these breakouts are predicated on Malik Neighbors transforming this offense. So really exciting draft pick for the Giants there, and hopefully this offense does take that step forward, and hopefully it's due to the fact that they have so much talent in their receiving corps if everybody does stay healthy and productive this season. But that pretty much wraps up this conversation. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening out for Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.